Welcome to the MMHP in the 989. Channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history from the city by the bay. And now, here's your host, Scott Baker.
Great. Yeah, that sounds good.
Great.
Coming through loud and clear.
Every day is the best day. We are back here at Studio 163, and we have an ultimate historic Michigan music moment going on in here. Mr. Pete Woodman's in the house. How you doing, Pete?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say my name's Pete Woodman. I'm from Freeland, Michigan, on the shores of the Tibbetawasee River, and it's the best ever.
Yeah,
that's what we like to hear.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, wonderful. We got a full studio. This is our first one in a couple of months here. We've taken a little bit of a break, and how you doing, Mike Beatty? Mr. Mike's in the house. All right.
As usual.
Yeah, he's documenting everything. Dr. J's back home. How's it going, Dr. J?
He's doing, everything's good.
Good.
Everything is good, yeah.
That is wonderful. That isn't always the case. And Sir Frederick, what's new? Book selling machine?
Well, that, and just out every day looking for records.
Beautiful.
Been finding some pretty good ones.
Mike's our archivist. He takes care of all the video footage usually. We don't know where it ends up, but I know he does it, so that's the best part.
Great. That's the best ever.
Well, we got the holiday season upon us, and Fred's been selling a lot of books, and Mike's been out seeing a lot of shows, and Gary just got back from a bit of a vacation with the fam, and Pete made it to the studio to come see us. What you been up to, man?
Well, I've been having the best time ever. I'm working at Sam's Club in Utica, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that is 7 to 2. Give me $15 an hour, and I do the commercials for them. I go, every day is the best day ever at Sam's Club. And I did about 15 of them so far.
The Utica Sam's Club. Now, people are going to hoard you for autographs. You know this.
It's on TikTok and stuff, but it's right up my alley, and I have a great time there. I've been there a year, and I'm, doing a lot of practicing, getting ready for my drumsticks, Pete Woodman sticks, as Woodman sticks, STX, and we're going to do all the high schools and junior highs and colleges. And I've been working on it a long time. And how that came about, if you'd like to hear, it's a great story. So the Hips with my daughter Sarah and Susie Woodman. And I used to have a guitar player, bass player, horn player. We're playing downtown Detroit for the opening of all the ball games. And if you remember, the opening days were always very cold. Usually, 35, 40, 45. So I'm playing, and Sarah turns around and said, "Dak, why do you keep licking your hands?" And I said, "Honey, that's how I hang on my sticks, because cold air and wood is very slippery." So, and also I'm a golf nut. Been playing since I was 10 years old. And I got home and come up with the idea of putting a golf grip on my stick. So I went to Carl at Carl's Golf Land on Telegraph. Said, "Carl, I need a grip for my sticks." I had my drumsticks there, and he looked at me kind of weird, but he took care of it and hooked me up with Super Stroke, which is the number 1 or number 2 golf grip company in the world, like Phil Mickelson and all the pros use their golf grip. So he's well heeled. And so I went and talked to him, and he said, "This is a no-brainer." It's been 8 years since we've been working on it. And when I first talked, his name is Dean Digman. So I grew up in Freeland. As everybody knows, I lived on 7.5 acres, 3-story house, 3 horses, and 200 chickens that my mom got when she had one too many. And what's great about it was the post office says Katie Woodman, and she said, yeah, you have 200 baby chicks here to pick up. So anyway, and it's amazing how noisy they are in our basement. They were very noisy. So where I grew up, next door to me was the Rebicks. Since I was a little kid, they've been living there. So come to find out, Judy Rebick, one of the kids, I told her Dean Dingman is the guy I'm working with, the Super Stroke. He's the prez. And she said Dingman. So she looked it up. Dean Dingman is her mother's brother's son. So what a small world, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. So I have so many good things happening. I'm a very lucky person, and I stay very healthy. And also I practice golf every day, and I practice drumming every day. Because when you reach a certain level, you're only good as your last day. So I make sure that I'm on top of it when I play. And so...
Well, that's a great idea, coming up with a golf grip for the drumsticks.
Yeah, and I'm sure.
And does it work really well inside too? You know, if you're drumming in a club or, you know, in an auditorium or something like that?
The stick that I showed you is all white with a grip on it. A marching stick. It's for marching bands. And they're outside.
Yeah, the big
when it's
ones.
chilly. All of them. Every marching band plays outside, you know, for football games or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And so when I first thought about it, I went to the schools and I go to the guys, they all wrap their sticks in that white tape, and that tape's not very good to hang on to and stuff. And so I remember I took my pre-sticks, you know, my ones that I'm thinking about, and they loved them. So just a matter of now, it's a no-brainer. You can buy my stick already all white with a grip on it so you can hang on to it, and only a couple $1 more than what they're paying, you know.
Right. So it's specialized basically for marching bands.
Well,
Your sticks, right?
this one is because
Okay.
you have this stick, bass drum beater, and then the 3 drums, you have a different stick. So I'm going to have 3 sticks, 3 sets of sticks. Bass drum beater and the tenor drums and the snare drum. And then once I get that rolling, I already have Skeeto and a lot of great drummers in Detroit already, you know, use my sticks off and on, and they love them. And it's just a matter of, you know, doing the rock and roll stick, which is...
Skeeto Valdez, good drummer in Detroit. I know him.
Yeah, he's probably one of the top ones. Detroit's got great drummers.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then if you're an older drummer, your hands hurt, you know. It's hard to hang on a stick. So those drummers, and for carpal tunnel, it takes up the shock, and it's going to be great. You know, it's going to be really good.
They're going to have the market on it here in Michigan pretty soon once you put that ad up there, Pete.
Yeah,
That'll be good.
Yeah, we're gonna. You might have to take that and put it in your little hand and then hold it, maybe.
I think it may have.
Yeah, piece of shit. Anyway. But otherwise, you know, it's good.
Well, Pete, let's go back to the beginning. When did you start drumming?
3rd grade. So how that happened was my mom and dad, back in the 40s, in the 50s, people ran around in herds. Like there was 7 or 8 of them. They'd go to clubs, dinner, to this house, to that house, not like it is today. So they have they're like a rat pack, you know, that was their little rat pack. And they used to go to the Bennett's house in Midland, Michigan. And so I grew up with the Bennetts, and every time I'd go over there, they would end up drinking beer and start telling dirty stories, and they would send me down in the basement. And so I'd go down the basement, and Dave had a set of drums down there. So every time I went down there, I started playing them. Then come to 3rd grade, Carl Nimwaltz, and the band teacher from Freeland, he was a war prisoner, in Freeland when they had the barracks in the World War II. And after that, he stayed there and become the janitor and band teacher. And he called me Pater. He couldn't say Peter. He called me Pater. And he wanted me to play trumpet or flute. And, I have a cleft palate, born-with cleft palate, missing digits, as we all know. And I said, no, I want to play drums. And I remember I was so bad I had to play on every beat. But you do get better. But that's how I started. And by the time I was in the 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th and 8th, we already had a band called the Teen Toppers. So we had a piano player, a sax player. My brother Rocky played trombone. And then we had a trumpet. And we played the Chesaning Showboat in 1954. Oh. And we were kids. And they have, I think, that year, the Ink Spots were the headliners.
Wow.
And then the following year, it was Peg Leg Bass. But we played 2 years, and we were on the cover, which I have the picture on the Midland Daily News, 1954. And we were just little kids, But that was my first band, and I've been playing in bands ever since.
Well, then, were the Playboys the next band you played?
No, you're talking about early Bossmen, and that didn't start until when I was in high school. I played little bands, and Lanny went to Saginaw High, so we had switched. Back then, there was like Saginaw High, Arthur Hall, Bay City Handy, Bay City Central, Pontiac Central, whatever. So we'd change things where our little band would play over there and their little band would play at our school. And that's where I met Lanny. He'd come up to me and says, my name's Lanny Roenicke, and I played bass and trumpet. I think he played trumpet and that. So him and I became friends, and then we started playing bands together. And then just before the Bossmen, we had, I think we were the Playboys. I think we were Playboys. Then.
That's what, with Butch White?
Yeah, Butch, Lanny, and I, and the sax player who was a barber. Bo White, I think his name, Bo. Yeah, Bo. Yeah, that was it. And then we just started playing, and when there was a local booking agent that would book us, and we ended up playing in Drayton Plains, which is just outside of Pontiac. And so we were playing there 5 nights a week, and this piano player would come in and play with us our last set, Warren Keith. And he played with us, and we got to know him pretty well. And he played with Dick over at the 300 Bowl. It's at the Firebird, and that Dick had a pretty good band back then. And he used to, so we got Warren to join our band. So Warren and Lanny and Butch White and myself. And Warren would always talk about this great guitar player that played behind his head, could sing good, Dick Wagner. So John was going to quit the band. So Lanny and I drove to Drayton Plains and knocked on the door, and there's little Dick Wagner. And Bobby was maybe a foot long, his son. He was just a little kid. And so he decided to join our band, which was a good move for him, because in my band, the Bossmen with Lanny and I, it taught him to write songs. He was kind of writing, but he had a vehicle. He had a vehicle to get his songs out, like the Bossmen. And the era was, with the Beatles coming out in 63, 64, was to do your own material.
Oh, yeah.
But the Bossmen had a lot of magic. 3-part harmony, and Warren and Lanny and Dick, they sounded really good together.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, those songs still stand up.
Yes, they do.
After all these years.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, really, it's outstanding. And you guys also, kind of put on a show. Also, I know Lanny had the trumpet where you would put
Fire,
lighter
yeah.
fluid in there and blow that out. And was it Warren Keith did something, light his piano keys on fire?
Yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis did that early. I'm sure Warren picked up on it. But Warren would light the piano and he would play behind his head. He was really a good showman. Warren was a great singer. But Dick wouldn't let him sing that much, but that's another story. But and then Lanny was already playing trumpet in high school and stuff. So he just picked it up and played, on this way. And he could play bass and trumpet at the same time. And we'd do some little marching tune like the Saints or Saints Go Marching In, and he'd pour lighter fluid in it and light it, and it would shoot out. And Warren did the bit with the lighter fluid on the piano, and Great Balls of Fire, which it was a good show.
Yeah. Well, you didn't start anything on fire during your shows, did you?
No, I'm sure they came pretty close.
Now, I understand you worked something into the act. Did you have like a
Mask
tap
or something.
a tap dancing routine or something that you did?
Well, I think we were wearing 1930 suits, which I still wear, the old button suits and that. So we all wore those for a while, the Bossmen. And we had a little halftime show where Dick would be the announcer. He had a little tambourine. And with Warren, Warren did something. But anyway, I remember I was a tap dancer, and my little routine was to do my tap dance. And we were pretty funny. The Bossmen were a pretty good show band for back then. It was great. I mean, we had fun. And when you have fun and you have good players and good singers, I mean, that's magic. So, like, you hear these bands, you know what I mean? When you hear a band that sounds great, like the Eagles or not even local bands, if there's a magic, man, there's something happens. The Bossmen definitely had the magic.
Yeah.
Yes,
it certainly did. Did you ever run into a guy by the name of William Malone? He was in a band called the Plagues.
I remember the Plagues, but in my world, names are not good because...
Okay. Well, the reason I bring that up is, after he quit music, he went out to California and became a film director. And he made a movie, I'm going to say it was probably about 15 years ago, called Parasomnia.
Yeah, I know that movie. And
and it had Bossman's music in it.
Yeah, and the first 4 minutes of the song, they're talking about me. Hey, the drummer Pete Woodman. I remember a lot of people come up to me and say, you're in a movie. So I'm in a movie? Anyway, I have that. But that was Bill Malone.
Yeah, William Malone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did the remake of House on Haunted Hill, I think, but that was his big hit. But that Parasomnia was pretty neat,
Yeah, it's... we have to get this clip and put that online because I think that people would really like it.
Oh, sure. Certainly.
And the credits at the end were Bossman songs.
Yeah.
I mean, it is incredible when you think about it.
Well, yeah. Well, the whole plot was this kid was looking for a copy of the 45, You're the Girl for Me, and Wait and See.
Right.
And that was kind of the whole plot line in the movie. And, he mentioned other Michigan bands in there, too. Because Malone, of course, he grew up in Fat Scott. The Plague songs are on that Scream
one
Loud.
you made, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Check that out, because there's the connection right there.
I have to check that movie out. I didn't know about that.
It's really good. Yeah.
It is. It's
You'll like
entertaining.
it. Anyway, I'm on the first 4 minutes. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. So you went from the high school bands and trading around the high school bands.
Yeah, I had a lot of bands.
Yeah, you made it sound like you went through a lot of different bands before the Playboys.
Yeah. Well, not a lot, but yeah, we were playing clubs and that's what you did. Once I even marched down the city of Bay City in a white Navy uniform playing the drum, I was in the Navy. Because of my missing digits, they would not take me. But I knew how to shoot a gun and everything. since I was a little kid, everybody in Michigan knows how to shoot a gun.
Right.
But, they wouldn't let me join.
Right.
So,
Now, after the Bossmen break up, you started playing with Question Mark and Mysterians after Eddie Serrato got in the accident?
Yeah. After the Bossmen had a band called the Bean Machine.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And Susie, who I love dearly, my ex, but we've been together 30 years, so we're still very, very close. And I said, Sue, we need a piano player. She said, man, I haven't played piano since the 8th grade. But her dad was Arnie Kane, who was a famous guitar player in this regional with Bob Talaga and Kent Wilson, that whole era that you wrote about. But that whole era of guys, I was just growing up to that, and they're gone, and now another era. Because I played with Kenny Anderson for years, and Jack Johnson, and God, that was a great era. I tell you that. Before that. But,
yeah, I have a picture, I think, of you with Kent Wilson and somebody else.
Bob Talaga, probably.
I think that's who it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Bobby Elliott, that was a great era. I played with Bobby. And then what happened was after Mysterians, Sue and I remember them coming down the hill and jumping out of the van, and we'd go in and play 96 Tears, and I learned all the drum parts, and I'm pretty well at arranging and keeping it together. And Susie managed the band, and we went all over the United States with those guys. But the weird thing was, you got to remember, this was 1967, 66. What year? Somewhere.
Probably 67. Yeah, 67, 68.
Yeah. And, the record was #1 all over. And like when we pull into Jackson, Mississippi, there's a motorcycle cop waiting for us because they were Mexican. And it's not the same world up here as it is down south.
Yeah.
Sue and I had to get food many times. It was growing up in Freeland. I'm going, what the hell's wrong with them?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? So it's I was pretty naive at that, And even in the Bossmen, when I got busted for marijuana, and it was a setup deal. And from that, I hate setups, but it was, I didn't know marijuana and pot were the same thing. I didn't know. And said, yeah, this is cool here. So it was, you remember how they used to, and we all remember, they used to come in little matchboxes for $10, whatever. So I remember giving it to this piano player that got busted, and then he had to bust whatever. But they were trying to get me. So what do you guys want? They finally, they busted me, but I didn't have anything. So, but back then, Sal was 20 years.
Yeah.
And,
It's pretty hard to believe, when you look at all the dispensaries everywhere.
Oh, now
my gosh, it was such a big deal back in the 60s. Did you do any recording with the Mysterians when they were out there at Ray Charles' studio?
Yeah, I'm the only other drummer to play in the Question Mark Mysterian band with Parkway, and we did it in downtown New York.
Okay.
And the name of the song is Cherry July. And you'll recognize.
Oh, yeah, that's a great tune.
Yeah, and I arranged that too, and you hear my siren in it. And that was the only tune I did one. But when the CD came out, I said, wow, I'm on that. So it was cool.
Yeah.
So everywhere Bobby plays, he's always, Pete, you got to come and sit in and play. So I do.
Yeah. But you didn't record with them when they recorded with Ray Charles?
No.
Okay, I wonder who drummed with him.
I don't know.
Okay. Because there was a reason I was, that's supposedly the big lost Question Mark and the Mysterians album.
Yeah, that third record that's missing. Yeah. That's why I thought you were going to say he was on that one or something.
Yeah, because they didn't release one single, but, nothing else ever came out.
If I was on it, I would have a copy. You can tell I'm really, I got zillions of pictures and tapes. Every band, there's a lot of bands. Like after, the Bossmen, I left the Bossmen for about 3 or 4 months, but I got back into Bossmen, so and that was good for me.
Yeah, you were in there for Baby Boy, the big hit, right?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, when Farner was in the band briefly.
Yeah, Dick would never let Mark, good harp player, and Dick said, no, I'm going to play harp. And, he was very protective with Mark. But the greatest thing is, after all these years, I have at home now a live CD of the Bossmen. And,
Really?
Yeah, and it's good. And I just haven't got to that position to do, because I'm going to do...
Susie kind of told us about this, and she said that you had some archives that you might need me to put digital for you and make up some stuff out of your tapes. And she goes, I got to get a hold of Pete and tell him about that. And I said, I'm offering it in my studio. So
that's true.
Yeah, I used to work with Dick at the studio for years there, and I was his archivist. So that's definitely something we can do. Yeah.
What do you know? Do you remember what year it was?
65.
Wow.
The Blue Light in Midland.
So you had
right. Blue Light in Midland.
Man, that's prime.
And and Mark Farner sings "House of the Rising Sun."
So he's in the band at that time. Good, yeah. I know.
I mean, it's good. I got the kids because I have not been able to find. And as I said early in the show, I'm a very lucky person. All of a sudden, boom, it pops up, and I told the guy, I says, nobody gets it. Don't give it to anybody else. And he's a good friend, and he sent it to me, and I listened to it, and God, it sounded pretty good, Yeah, it was pretty good when we do some of our songs.
Yeah, that you should get that out. That would be big here in Michigan.
Fred's got a contact at Third Man Records. That might be something they could put out as an archival release.
Well, I know that guy, and he called me one day. You know who Steve Miller is in Lansing, the writer? Steve Miller? Yeah, it's on a couple of books.
Okay.
Anyway, he knows the guy, and he told him about me because I have a tape of Sue and I and Meatloaf and Ricky. I got 4 songs that no one's ever heard.
That's the one she was telling us about.
Yeah.
That's what started our whole archive talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have a lot of stuff, and I'm 80 now. I'll be 81 in December. I'm going, well, Pete, you should probably get that together. I'm going, get that together.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
You
Pete,
still have all the drum heads, don't you? Because when I came to your house, you said, here's the Bossmen. And
yeah. Well, what I have, since I've been playing, I save all my drumsticks. So I have 2 big, those wicker baskets, 2 of them full of sticks. And I remember I can pull the stick. Oh, I remember that era. They don't make these sticks anymore. Even my new ones with my prototype grip ones are in there, that I go through. And I don't know, my son, I remember Peter, my son, he says, Dad, what am I going to do with all this stuff when you pass, So I'm trying to get rid of it a lot, trying. But you're in one house for a long time, and I'm a collector, I when I worked at McDonald's in 1961, I had the first McDonald's hat. And I still have it. I remember talking to a manager of McDonald's. He says, hang on to that hat.
That's cool.
So,
Pete, take us through how Popcorn Blizzard came together.
Yeah, that's a pretty good story. But after I left, well, let me catch up first. After I left,
question mark.
So, yeah, we had a lot of money. I'm the only one. I remember Bobby Balderamma telling me Sue handled the money, and we just got the money and split it. And Bobby says, we only got $100 a week. So here they were getting like a lot of money. They loved me. And I think after that they've given out the money more. But anyway, so when I went to California, now we didn't know anybody. The only person we knew was Bobby Boyce and Hart, did the Monkees thing. So I remember we went into their office and they give me some pointers on who to call and stuff. In the meantime, Southbound Freeway had out psychedelic used car lots.
Blues, yeah.
1965. It's a hit in Detroit.
Yeah.
So they were going to come to California to get a record contract. So they drove out there and got with me, to be the drummer. And so we cut acetate, the RCA. It sounded a lot like the Strawberry Alarm Clock. And Frank Slay, who produced Strawberry Alarm Clock, we did this for him. And I have the acetate at home, and it's really good. But they wanted to sign us to a contract. And the brothers, they chickened out or something. I said, you don't need me to play, just sign a contract and do what your dream is to play. Anyway, they didn't do it. And one of the songbirds, Lenny and Marty, Lenny got shot. Someone killed him. He was working at that famous paper in L.A. And Marty, I think, is in Grand Rapids, but I don't even if he knows I have that. But when I get ready, that's coming out. And it's really good. And then that's where I met Meatloaf and Ricky. I had a drum lesson on right across from Gold Star recording studio. I used to go in there all the time. And I was a Lee Michaels fan, and the drummer kind of played in there. And I'm walking down the street, and there's this Meatloaf and Ricky are up there, and I remember walking up, and I'm going, here's this little kid, skinny kid with Ricky had long brown hair. Then next to him was this fat kid that looked really dumpy, greasy hair, just, he had on one of those button-down shirts you see college kids wear. But as we know the story, he came from, he just got on the plane, and wherever the plane took him, it just LA, and he had his guitar, and they needed a drummer for a recording session. So I said, I have my sticks. I said, okay, I'll do it. And so I helped Meatloaf and Ricky, arrange whatever they did. And I don't know what happened to that stuff that we did. I have no idea. But then we formed the band, and Susie played keyboards, and Ricky knew a guitar player. And we played all over Huntington Beach. At that era, they were looking for bands. You could go Southbound Freeway. We went into A&M, Capitol, all over. We did that whole routine. And another band I forgot, I played, was it after the Bossmen? Yes, Plain Brown Rapper, which everybody knows that band from here.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was so I played with them for a while. That was weird because they were like a commune band. So all the money went into the band. They had the school bus, and they lived near Lansing. And but I played with them, and we played at Central Michigan University. It had to have been after Meatloaf, because I think I did the clown act where they'd get up and play, and I'd be over there and I'd be beeping my horn or whatever. Anyway, so. But one thing about, I'm not a great drummer, but I love to entertain, and I love to, anybody can play a drum solo, just, over and over. Big deal. That gets boring. But you get someone like me that puts on I knew I was never a great drummer, but my drum solos in sections. First section is like Buddy Rich and a lot of fancy stuff with double pedals, and then my next section is the mask, which you probably all seen 100 times. Put the mask on and do the tom-tom routine. Then after that is the bats, and I've been doing that same routine in that order since 1964.
Wow.
The Village Funk is where I first got that together.
Now, why did you come back to Michigan?
Well, when we were in, so I had my band together, 4-day circuits with
Right.
Meatloaf, Ricky, and I, and this guitar player that was really good guitar player. And so I called Punch Andrews, who's a buddy of mine, And I said, Ponch, I got a band. I want to bring back to Michigan. He said, bring them back. He says, I can book you. So we worked all the clubs in Detroit, and we did Sober Bell, and we did, and Dick by then had the Frost together.
Right.
So we worked together a lot with Dick and MC5. And we used to hang out. In fact, we opened up for MC5 a ton. Been to their house, and John Sinclair is one of my best friends. In fact, I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he might come up and play with me when I play in Freeland this August.
Oh, that'd be cool.
All right.
Yeah, it'd be great, but I don't know if I'd pull him out. He said, yeah, I'll do it, man. Since I know him since 1959. And I remember he said, yeah, I got this new band. I think we were playing at the Royal Air Rink. And I said, what's the name of the band? He said, Motor City 5. I said, that's the worst name ever, you know. but it was cool. And John and I are still close, you know.
Yeah. How did you get pictures taken? These are your publicity pictures for Floating Circus when you were in the Gerstacker mansion. What was your connection there? How did you get in to use that house?
My dad wrote speeches for the president of Dow Chemical Company. Went to Michigan State.
Oh.
Graduated in 1932. So he was pretty well known. And Mr. Gerstacker, Carl Gerstacker, is like famous.
He was the CEO of Dow, right?
Right. So, and they were married. Anyway, their daughter, I think, hooked us up with something, but her name was Betty, and she was the sweetest lady. And I told you earlier, I'm very lucky. She took a liking to me, and you seen the picture with Meatloaf, and his feet were dirty, and it was. And this tapestry behind us was probably $15,000 or more. It's it was at least 12 feet tall. 12 feet tall, and it's the only time I've ever seen an hourglass where you turn it upside down, a big one like that tall, about 2 feet tall, and it took an hour for it to drain. But she invited us in the house, and she took a liking to us. So Jack Gridley, who we all know from Saginaw, she said, go get whatever equipment you want. So we got, I think, $3,000 worth of stuff, PA, bass, everybody amp. I think I got my 24-inch bass drum that I still play. In fact, I just played it yesterday. And I have that receipt, at home.
Wow.
It says, I'm thinking back, that must have been a lot of money back then.
Yeah. Right, 1960s, it's a lot of money. And she was so sweet, and she would ride with us, when we play hideouts and stuff. She would ride with us, and Jeez.
She was a big fan of ours,
Is it at this point that you record your record, Hello and Once Upon a Time?
Yeah, we did that in Bay City, and those tunes sucked. I mean, the guy didn't know what he was doing. But when we were in Jackson, I have the 4 songs that we did live, and they're really good.
They're a lot better?
Better, great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound, the recording that you did with Shield, it doesn't sound like Meatloaf or, really.
He had such a powerful voice, the guy didn't have any idea. And he's thinking to back the mic away, and that's where you get that echo sound instead of just turning it down or something, whatever. But anyway, so, Daniel's Den, we all know the Bossmen owned that place. And we played there many times, but even after that, I played there many times with Meatloaf and stuff. So it was pretty good.
Now you put that out in your own label?
Yeah, that
Agenda?
was Frank Patrick, and he was the nicest guy. Everybody, Frank Patrick, Daniel's Den, and Eddie the what was his name? Eddie the sheriff guy, the cop. Anything?
Oh, Officer Ed.
Officer Ed. Yeah.
Novacic.
Yeah, he was great. And but it was so funny, that little team, that club just became, it was a great era. And also a section of my book, if I ever get it out, has an era about the dances. That dance era is no more for kids. So when I used to go to the Music Box in 1957, 58, 59, 60, that's my oldies. That's my oldies, like my records that I love. Mm-hmm. And I pass out at gigs, songs Pete loves, and it's like coasters.
I think you gave me one of those. Yeah. I have one. Something that says Pete's favorite songs or something.
You listen to that, man, and take it right there. It's the best, man. And I give it, and I get people that, but they had big brothers. Remember Dick Clark, right? Everybody.
Sure.
Dick Clark, and then there was he was at Big Brothers at the old Saginaw Auditorium. Then there was the Elks on. I think Wednesday.
Downtown, yeah.
Then Uncle Don Andrews, who I loved, he did a thing with I think that was when we did Chesney Showboat. We did a thing with him.
He was at WSAW, I think.
Yeah, he was great. And so he had the Sound Lounge on Bay Road.
Yeah, did you ever play the Sound Lounge?
Nobody ever played the Sound Lounge. It was a dance studio.
Okay, so it was just records?
Yeah, it's a roller skating rink.
Well, it was formerly the Parkway Inn, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but
yeah.
I remember from my house in Freeland to the Sound Lounge, how many beers can you drink between there to there? That was the era, and I was only 19 or something, and I was working at a meat market, and I had one of the guys at the meat market buy me a 6-pack of beer, so it was...
What year was the Sound Lounge? Because I have it in my next book, but I I know I was still too young.
I went there in high school.
It was 59, 60, 61.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it was in the 60s, before Rollaire, I think.
Oh, yeah, way before Rollaire. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the songs that were out. They did The Jerk. We did, those songs that you have on that CD,
Yeah.
We did The Social. So a social is 1, 2, 3 kick, but it can be a box step too. So many times I'd get Don Andrews' mic, and I would call it. There would be 50 on this side, 50 on that side, your 1, 2, 3 kick, turn, switch, or whatever we did. And I called that a lot. So I was dancing was a big deal to me. So I have every dance that Terry Worth and I used to go to Flint. WPAC had a Sunday afternoon, and they had on Court Street in Flint. Flint had great dancers, really good dancers. So anyway, but I bought gas there for 15 cents in 1959.
You got that receipt?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you.
My wife and I still enjoy doing the Soch.
Yeah, I still.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You need the songs from that era, that certain beat, which really works well for that
Lady
dance.
Gaga, the new music and stuff is that.
No, you don't Soch to that.
But it has to have a swing to it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the cool thing about early rock and roll, I think, is it had that swing, and I find, and maybe you guys do too. Like a lot of the more modern rockabilly, the original rockabilly had a lot of swing to it, and the more modern players play too fast. They don't have the swing. So
yeah, when I played with Jerry Lee Lewis, and the reason I played with him because Warren already played all his songs, so it was just a matter of Jerry says, "You know the songs?" I said, "Yeah, I grew up with them. I know them real well." But the reason I'm mentioning this. He doesn't play these songs. He plays them right in the pocket. He plays them right in the pocket, man. He goes like this. you're right there, you know. So Jerry Lee Lewis was cool. I used to hang out with Hank Williams Jr. because Warren went and played with Hank Williams Jr.
Right.
So I used to get on his bus and put on his silver dollar belt and some of his stuff. He was real nice, you know. Once he played guitar while I sang Your Cheating Heart. But yeah, he was cool. He just had out 11 Roses. Yeah, 11 Roses, I think. But and these guys back then, they were only after the chicks. I'm telling you, man. And he was no different. You know, in later years when I used to go see him, I knew his bouncer, the guy that was right there. He says, when Jerry comes out, he says, just stay where you are. Don't move out, or I'll have to, you know, push you back or whatever, you know. So there was, I'm sure Frank Sinatra had the same thing going on.
Where did you remember the venue you played when you backed Jerry Lee Lewis? Was it here in Michigan?
It was Detroit.
Oh, it was in Detroit. Okay.
Yeah. Detroit, and I think Riviera Terrace is in Flint, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played there. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, he was cool. He was cool.
Yeah. Sadly, just lost him.
Yeah.
The last. I mean, he was.
The last man standing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And the wildest, it seems like.
Yes.
You know? So you never know, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Probably everyone thought he was going to be the first one to go.
Yeah, I remember I was with, I played in that town in Memphis. I went to Sunday Studio. I got a picture of me from. It's kind of cool, and it looks exactly the same as it did back then.
Yeah, and it's so small.
Yeah.
You know, you think all the great records that were done there.
Have you been in the Motown Museum?
Yeah. I mean,
Talk about small.
Yeah, same thing.
They just remodeled that. It's not
Yeah.
small anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that whole complex is remodeled.
Yeah, but they didn't.
They didn't change the.
Yeah, they didn't
Oh,
mess
okay.
Studio A though.
That floor in that studio was wore out.
Yeah.
You could right to the wood. You could see the tile to the wood. So many hours. And I remember I went in there with when I was playing with Ted Lucas and the Horny Toads. And I don't know if anybody knows who Ted Lucas is.
Yeah, we were just talking about him.
He's been a constant podcast person that we've been bringing up. I'm trying to dig through.
Well,
his
he was my album pick of the week.
Yeah.
Last week.
That was
or
cool.
One of those weeks.
Yeah. So anyway, Ted and I and Mark Schober and David Levine had the Horny Toads, which I have a live tape, and we played. Remember they were having those Crosby, Stills, and Nash was going around and playing the colleges for the war thing, whatever. So before that, I played with a group called R.J. Fox, and they got a recording contract in San Francisco, and he was going to produce them. David Crosby was going to produce them. So they wanted me to fly out there. And, I just moved to Detroit, and we were living in on Bethune, which is a very black section. I think we were the only white people there. And so I couldn't leave Sioux. And but I wish I would have went out. But David Crosby, when we opened up for them at Detroit, wherever it was, Detroit, I can't think of what the venue
Masonic?
was. Yeah, it was all around. It was for the war efforts. Anyway, I says he'd come in, and I seen him. I says, "Hey, I'm Pete Woodman." He says, "Hey, I heard you were a great drummer. I wish you would have came and played drums for R.J. Fox, the recording." But anyway, so that was kind of cool.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Susie didn't play in the Horny Toads?
No, she didn't. No, but Ted Lucas knew a lot of people, and Janis Joplin band is from Detroit, and they came in and heard us and liked us. But I'm getting ready to do that. Horny Toads CD pictures, Meatloaf picture, question mark pictures this. Robert Knoll, who was played with
I played on his album.
Yeah,
The
Robert.
last song.
Yeah, Robert Nolan and Johnny B. Gayton played together for 4 years, so I got that. So it's like I got so many things that I gotta get together, and it's great, Like,
So take us back to just before the Horny Toads with Ted Lucas and all that. Meatloaf left, or tell us a little bit how that went down.
yeah, we played and we opened up for all the local bands, Seeger and Nugent and everybody, but we just it came to where we just weren't going anywhere. We were getting standing ovations, and Meatloaf was singing good, and we used to have to play we played high schools and stuff, so what Meatloaf was wearing, so I put him in a tuxedo. So Robert's around there on Court Street, I knew the owner, and he'd rent me a tuxedo for Meatloaf. And when Meatloaf come out 2 out of 3, I remember when him and I were hanging out, and he says, "Yeah, I kept wearing the tuxedo," and you see pictures now, and that's where that tuxedo came from. From me.
But he ended up moving on and saying goodbye to you, and you went to Detroit then?
No, what happened was, so I broke the band up, and Meatloaf went back to California and did some stuff or whatever. But then his story starts, when he gets in hair, comes back to Detroit, and gets in hair, and then the rest is history.
Right.
But when they show the Meatloaf autobiography on when they stream it, the floating circus picture is the first thing you see. So there we are in California, Meatloaf, me, Sue, Ricky, and so it's kind of cool.
Nice.
Sure.
You get that. And he was always nice to me. Everywhere Meatloaf played, it's just a matter of getting hold of one of them. And when he was playing at Pine Knob once, my son and his buddies, we'd get there early, and we can go walk right up to the stage, and Meatloaf's there, and down comes the security saying, "You can't be here." And Meatloaf go, "Whoa." So we got to hang. And Meatloaf would sit in each chair in the front row to make sure everybody could see. He would sit and say to the roadie, "Move that monitor that way." He was, when you hear his last words or when he talks about his fans, he lived for those fans. Because later the shows I seen him, he was horrible. He couldn't sing a lick. I always tell him, I said, "Meatloaf, ML," that's what I call him, ML. I said, "They want to hear the stories. They want to see you, but you have the stories about Linda and Cher and how you sang at the opening of that World Series baseball team, which is one of the best, Lady Gaga and Meatloaf probably sing the national anthem better than anybody, ever. Meatloaf was great, but anyway, so.
Did you read his book?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a chapter in this book.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds.
The book's not very good.
Was it? Did he kind of exaggerate some things?
Meatloaf was very good at exaggerating.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he had some stuff about question mark that was holy mackerel.
Well, he roadie for him. He did roadie for. I'm not roadie, but bodyguard him when it was between my band and. Coming back to Detroit and getting hair. He did anything. He parked cars.
Okay.
He had nothing going. Nothing. And
so there might be some truth to those tales about question mark that he wrote about?
Yeah, there might be.
Okay.
But I know Sue and I talk about it, and we go, I don't remember that or whatever. but he had a good heart. And there was breakdowns, and when I was a hippie in '65 and hanging out at the whiskey and stuff and that whole era, but the whole era was about LSD and I remember Sue and I go to a party, we'd be smoking pot and you get high, through wine, though. They do through wine. You don't just hit it. You got a big pipe on the floor. And then they bring out the hash, and it's like an elevator. You go, so it was a great era for that. You know, I remember I couldn't drive back home. But, and then we played, when we had the band together in California, we played at Crazy Chuck's apartment. You know, Crazy Chuck was the head of the Hells Angels. So when we had our equipment there, we never worried. And then when we used to go to the observatory there for the love-ins and stuff. And when the Hells Angels drove in, buddy, it said, you feel the heat. You know, you feel the heat, man. Because, you know, they wanted something, they just take it. You know, that's just the way they were. But it was a great era because everybody was running around naked. Everybody was smoking pot. It was like California was, you know, the love-ins there had. Yeah, it was a different.
And then the Manson killings changed everything.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was back home, I think, by then.
And that'll wrap up part 1 with Pete Woodman here at the MMHP in the 989. We are grateful for him to come to town and give us a whole interview in a 2-part series. And we'll feature part 2 in 2 weeks, and which will be our final episode here in season 3 at the MMHP in the 989. We want to thank Pete for coming in and for hanging out with us and giving us all he had for this interview. There's such a history between the last 2 with his ex-wife Susie, as well as this 2-part series with Pete. And we're grateful for the bedstones and the bedrock of the Michigan music, rock and roll, as well as the rest of the music that we cover throughout the year. Please come back in 2 weeks and hear part 2 at Pete Woodman. We want to thank you again for tuning in here at the MMHP in the 989.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP 989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com. Brought to you by Michigan Rock and Roll Legends, located both inside the Bay County Historical Museum on Washington Avenue, as well as Scotty's Sandbar on Evergreen Drive at the Bay City Middle Grounds.
On behalf of the hosts, Gary Dr. J. Johnson, Sir Fred Rife, archivist and videographer Mike Beatty, and myself, this podcast wouldn't be here without Studio 163's Alan Garcia, the voice of MMHP, Mr. Eddie Switek, all of our guests, and you, the listeners.
You've been listening to the MMHP and the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want to thank you for tuning in.